Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Red Corner Boxing, sponsored by Easy Storage, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. And in this week's fighter series, it is none other than the standout in the light heavyweight division. It is none other than the great Michael Spinks, the greatest light heavyweight of his generation. Was a 1976 Olympic gold medalist, but really took off in the 1974 National Golden Gloves, where he just breezed through the opposition to win the Golden Gloves title at the 156-pound division, and where he eventually wound up representing the United States in the 1976 Olympics, a part of the team that involved Sugar Ray Leonard, not just Michael Spinks, but also his brother Leon Spinks and the great Howard Davis. And what happened is he wound up joining them as a team to win the Olympic gold, and the team that some would consider the greatest Olympic team in amateur boxing history. And shortly thereafter, he wound up turning professional and had to begin his march through the light heavyweight ranks, especially in the first 10 to 15 fights, where early in his career, he got big wins over standout fighters like Marvin Johnson and Yaki Lopez. And that set him up. Yes, he was a top quality fighter, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. He got his first shot at the light heavyweight championship against the standout Eddie Mustafa Muhammad in a fight where he started slow because Mustafa built the early lead. Spinks then eventually came on and just took control of the fight from the second half on. Got also a mid-round knockdown en route to a unanimous decision win. A win that won him one of the first of the light heavyweight championships. And now he started to begin his march. After a few fights later, he wound up on March 18th, 1983 at the Convention Center in Atlantic City. He was involved in a fight built as the Brawl for All against the standout Dwight Muhammad Qawi, in a fight where Qawi and Spinks just gave it their all. The difference there was the skill level of Spinks just took over, winning the unanimous decision in what was a terrific fight both ways, because anybody knows Dwight Qawi and Michael Spinks are two of the light heavyweights basically just give it their all. And it was simply a standout showdown. So Spinks was the undisputed light heavyweight championship. Let me remind you, this was in the two-belt era where it was only two belts. And when you won the two belts, you were the undisputed champ. That's what Michael Spinks did. And he became the first since Bob Foster to become the undisputed champ to unify two of the belts. And as we move on to the later career of Michael Spinks, he would make a couple more successful title defenses before the evolution of the three-belt era took place. And he fought a standout named Eddie Davis to defend both his titles and the third belt, which was vacant. And there, Eddie Davis just couldn't handle Michael Spinks. And in that particular fight, Spinks would go on to win the unanimous decision, cleaning out basically the light heavyweight division. I mean, he had just wiped out all the champions, beat all the top guys in that division. We think about Yaki Lopez, Murray Sutherland, Marvin Johnson, who later became excuse me, wrong guy. I apologize. Then to Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, to Dwight Muhammad Qawi, to even other fighters like Jim McDonald and Eddie Davis. So what does he do? He tests the waters in the heavyweight division. And in 1985, in a fight that had all kinds of history written about it, it was Michael Spinks versus Larry Holmes. Question was going to be, would Michael Spinks be the first light heavyweight to win the heavyweight championship? Or would Larry Holmes, who was 48-0 going in, tie the magical mark of 49-0 set by Rocky Marciano? Because if he won, he would have gone to 49-0. All kinds of history was built up. Larry Holmes in the middle of his terrific 7.5-year reign as heavyweight champion. Spinks, who basically cleaned out the light heavyweight, was looking for a new challenge. So he moves up to challenge Holmes for the heavyweight championship at the Riviera in Las Vegas. And on this particular night, it was Michael Spinks who would make history, not letting Holmes use his size, just getting in with quick combinations and getting out, just utilizing the ring and just controlling the pace from start to finish to win the unanimous decision to win the championship from Larry Holmes, the belt that Holmes had held for 7.5 years and successfully defended 20 times. He stops Holmes' march toward history, making his own history as the first light heavyweight champion to win the heavyweight championship of the world. And it basically prompted a rematch, which was in the middle of a all heavyweight championship tournament that was put together by Don King in the mid-'80s, where basically they was going to unify all the belts to have one champion. And in this particular rematch, it was a better showing by Larry Holmes and a match by a better showing by Michael Spinks, where both fighters had their moments. Holmes probably came on at the end, but it was probably a case of too little too late, where Michael Spinks would eke out a split decision win that set fireworks from both camps, from Spinks and Holmes, as to who won it. But nonetheless, it was Michael Spinks who, for the second time in less than a year, dethroned Larry Holmes and was still the heavyweight champion after their rematch. Of course, after that particular fight, he would make another successful defense against Stangard, where he just obliterated him in 4 rounds. But then the political aspect of the sport, per usual, got involved, because Michael Spinks was supposed to be in the middle of the tournament, which he wanted no contractual obligations with Don King. So he drops the belt because of the political aspect of it and refusing to fight Tony Tucker. So he takes on the corpse of Jerry Cooney and basically wins a 5th round stoppage. The important thing of this one is he wanted to just simply cash out, and he knew his career was coming to an end. So he stops Jerry Cooney to elevate his record to 31-0, which sets up the Super Showdown, the Super Moneymaker a year later. It was the fight for it all, Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks. And basically, in this particular fight, everybody knows what particularly happened. Michael Spinks doesn't necessarily show up in the greatest of shape, was basically looked uptight and nervous, especially at the stare down. It was basically blown out in 91 seconds. And basically, that was the end for Michael Spinks, not just on that night, but for his career, as he, after that fight shortly, announced he was never coming back into the ring again. But the fortune and misfortune is people got to see Michael Spinks, but people think he is best remembered for what happened when he just got blown out by Mike Tyson as a heavyweight, which is a crying shame, because we talk about his tenure as a light heavyweight. That's where his legacy was. You're talking about the first undisputed champ who unified the titles since Bob Foster a decade before. Clean out that division, and because he cleaned out that division and went undisputed, you could probably put him in the top 5 or top 6 all time as a light heavyweight, and his skill level was a second to none. Ring generalship was his forte, and when he was in that ring, he showed it, demonstrated it at the highest levels, and that's why, as a light heavyweight, he was a genuinely all-time great. I mean, of course, made the history when he beat Holmes in '85 to win the heavyweight title. Second fight, of course, you may have your opinion either way, but he did become the official winner of the rematch. But Michael Spinks, his legacy, when you think about the great all-time light heavyweights like Ezra Charles, Billy Conn, Archie Moore, Bob Foster, Gene Tunney, Harry Greb, and Tommy Loughran, just to name several of them, Michael Spinks is definitely in that conversation. And while people are so stuck in the recency bias for how he just got obliterated by Mike Tyson, people need to do a little research when it comes to Michael Spinks, because his genuine greatness was at light heavyweight and is certainly among the top great light heavyweights to have ever laced him up and basically set marks that nothing were ever going to be seen again. Just a standout fighter, Olympic gold medalist, a part of the greatest Olympic team ever assembled with Sugar Ray Leonard and his brother Leon Spinks. His career and resume, second to none. Just a terrific, terrific fighter, the great Michael Spinks. And that'll wrap up this edition of Red Corner Boxing. I hope everyone had themselves a wonderful rest of the day. Good night, take care of yourselves, and God bless.